pleasure for me as a longtime fan to be sitting here with Aaron Gray. Here with Larry Hama.
We're talking with Kevin J. Anderson, best-selling author.
Mr. Neil Adams.
I am here with David Britt. Axel Alonso, editor.
Shadow Stevens. And Devil's Comic-Con with John Delancey.
With Tom King.
Kevin Conroy.
Free comic book day.
Denise Crosby.
PopCon Pop Expo.
Here on location at Star Wars Celebration.
Sci-Fi Expo, talking for our second time with Gil Gerard.
Wichita, Kansas at Time Eddy.
Producer David Gerald.
I've got Eric Flint.
Are here at Smallville Comic-Con.
Wizard World St. Louis.
VillageCon in Bentonville, Arkansas.
Michael Lombardi.
We were talking with Alan Dean.
Quincy Allen.
Suzanne Lambden.
Founder of Starlog Magazine, Mr. Kerry Oakwood.
Chris Sami.
Len Weed.
Dave Schwartz.
Mano Inkarami.
Johnny's
Aaron.
This is Sci-Fi for Me, your portal to the science fiction multiverse.
The Immortal Mask, a 1970s superhero crime noir adventure that follows a retired soldier who is given a covenant interview with a death row inmate. What he learns from the interview thrusts him into Atlanta's shadowy underworld. He'll have to utilize his military training to survive from being hunted for the information that could topple the most powerful ruling class in the city. This is not a pre-order or a crowdfunding campaign. Get your books now at denali's.com.
25 seconds to curtain, folks.
Your favorite podcast, it's Critical Blast.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Bonsart Bokel. Welcome to the show again, Bonsart. How you doing?
Yeah, doing good. Kickstarter is going well, so can't complain about that.
Yeah, you're doing. You funded within 8 hours your project we love on Kickstarter. This is a good weekend for you guys.
Yeah. Let's hope it continues.
Yes, absolutely. So the last time we had you on here, we were talking. What were we talking about? Was it the Associates of Ishtar, or is that the overarching?
That's the overarching series. Yes, this is Bound for the Styx is book 2 in the Association of Ishtar, and we also have something new that we're experimenting with, a new format, which are short stories. Which are fully illustrated, anthologies, really, which are really shaped to resemble like the files of the Association of Ishtar. So they're full colored. And the nice thing is that they have all kinds of concept sketches that I love, but, cannot put in my books. And the second one, the 321 notes also contains like all kinds of sketches made by volunteers and fans of the series.
Well, that's got pockets.
Huh?
That's got pockets in it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, that page right there, it looks like you got stuff that's attached to the page.
No, it's just the effect of the
wow,
background.
They pulled it off well. I thought it was like
Yeah.
one of these books where like you had little pockets glued in on the pages, and there were things put into the
Oh,
pockets.
no.
And
I mean, yeah, well, they would be a lot more expensive than
yeah,
these.
it'd be a lot of work.
So yeah, but yeah, that's a new format we are experimenting with, and we hope to improve and include like stories by other writers as well, which was the intent of the series to begin with. So
But we
yeah,
already
we'll
have
see.
Cosmic Shroud. I'm gonna screw up that, I think, but your
Yeah,
boy
he was
Cosmic.
on our launch party as well. Let me see. I do not have the stream for me, so I'll make sure I can look in the chat. Yeah, he just probably from the he's from the Discord. Yeah.
Absolutely. So fill in the new viewers. What is the Association of Ishtar? It sounds like a spy agency, like Uncle or Smirsh or something.
Yeah, so AOI, or the Association of Ishtar, this is one of them, is a association of volunteers who live on a world that has all kinds of connections to the multiverse. All these rifts are opening up, and all these threats and ideas are pouring in through the multiverse, and the Association of Ishtar is trying to kind of like counter like enemies from beyond, as it were, but also trying to investigate people on their own world who are trying to abuse whatever comes through those gates. And that's really what the first book, The Wrench in the Machine, is about. That's about a cult that is being influenced by radio signals from one of the other worlds. And that one is really written as an introduction for people who are unfamiliar with the series. That kind of like explains the first basic concepts with a wonderful art by Starringer. And the second book is kind of continues the plot of one of our new protagonists, Igraine Mortuba. She
that needs a big screen.
Yeah, so this is the 75mm version of her. On the Kickstarter, we offer a 45mm D&D scale miniature for her. This one is not yet done painting, but I'm already liking how it's turning out. And she is going to this one of these worlds inside the multiverse called Hades, which is an ancient space station drifting in the place between worlds. They do not know how it got there or who created it, but there is like one colony of humans in that space station called Arcology. And it's a very special place, because what happens is that when a world in this multiverse gets destroyed, the last survivors are being delivered to that place, and there they have to survive somehow in this city where no one understands one another. So
oh joy, like Babel.
It's kind of like Babel. And Igraine goes there because even though most worlds are like very primitive, most worlds are like Bronze Age, that type of era, maybe medieval, but there's also like super advanced civilizations as well. So there's also all this technology that's can't be found anywhere else in the multiverse. And Igraine goes there to be healed because she's a bit of a cyborg whose implants got destroyed. So she's going there to be healed. However, she kind of like gets herself wrapped up in the culture, and she really wants to fit in because, well, she's kind of an outsider. But there she kind of like discovers a way to reinvent herself and become part of the so-called scavs, which are, well, the scavengers who actually go into the hallways of Hades and go on these. And so that's why she looks more fantastical than the typical Victorian style that the world of Atlas has. And then she does stuff happens, and everything starts changing. So she wants to take responsibility for that.
Yeah, you mentioned that she doesn't have the typical Victorian look. Now, that gets what I was going to bring up here. Was my impression was that the entire series had a steampunk aesthetic to it. But am I hearing that there's like more than just that? I mean, because if you got multiple dimensions and some are more advanced technology, do you have like the lasers and the computers and stuff like that?
Well, I mean, there's definitely worlds that have that. Like originally, Igraine is not from the world of the Association of Ishtar. She is actually an outsider herself, who kind of lives in exile on their world, as this cyborg who's far more advanced than anything that the Association has in its possession. However, there is a rule in this multiverse that anything that leaves its home world for longer than, let's say, a period of 40 days dies. It's called Traveler's Decay. And yeah, it's a major risk to anyone who travels the multiverse. However, they have like this device called a Pendleton Array that protects people from that effect. But it's a kind of lost tech, and the Association of Ishtar cannot reproduce it. So Igraine is basically living in this gilded cage all this time. However, there's one exception in the multiverse, and that is Hades. So it's the only place where Igraine can do whatever she wants. So that's why she kind of like gets this love-hate relationship with this place. Where she's able to basically be who she wants to be and that type of stuff. But yeah, as long as she remains in the world of Atlas, she has to continuously get back to that one place in order to survive.
To stabilize, get back to
stabilize, yeah.
Okay, so it's kind of like when I think multiverse, I don't go quantum mechanics, I go DC universe.
Right.
Old school DC universe when the Flash would like, it's just vibrations. You vibrate differently and you're in a different place. So everybody's like synced in with the vibrations of their plane. And if they're off of it, they're still vibrating, but everything around them's asyncopated to them. So it's like, I don't know how they die in your universe, but it's like it's beating them to death slowly until they succumb to it, until they, get back to their own vibrational plane. That's just how I'm envisioning it. I'm sure you've written something completely different. But it sounds fascinating. I love the concepts of it. But I've always loved steampunk aesthetics and what they build out of what was available in a Victorian era and making it sci-fi.
Oh yeah, it's funny. Like there is nothing quite like it. Like my definition of steampunk is really cyberpunk in the past, so that can be applied to all kinds of historical concepts. So, I do want to like develop a kind of like Roman inspired world at some point where the Roman Empire solved their logistical issues through a very early invention of the steam engine, and basically used the steam engine to, what the British did and how the steam engine developed in Britain was because they needed pumps to, empty the coal mines from water. And, you have a coal supply next to it. Hey, so,
yeah.
So that's how they managed to develop the steam engine, because it was already known to the Romans. But it's just like, what do you do with it? And that's an entrepreneur like a millennia later came up with, oh well, if we solve it like this, so that has always been the problem with steam technology. I mean, a matter of fact, in the Netherlands, we know from a English spy in the 16th century, the Dutch were trying to develop a steamboat. But the inventor who was working on it died, and then the project just dissipated. But so yeah, and that kind of stuff. Like for me, I draw my inspiration for my stories really from history, and the kind of backstabbing that happens in spy agencies as well. Of course, I'm currently finishing a story just like that. About how the association acquired one of its most prized possessions, which are seed vaults to protect their own environment against invasive plant species and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because you gotta. There's all kinds of things you got to be aware of when you can traverse dimensions. Have you ever read Larry Niven?
I have not.
He had a short story called All the Myriad Ways, and it was one of these, they discovered how to traverse all the multiple dimensions. Of course, if you've discovered it, then at the same time somebody in the alternate dimension has discovered it, and your doppelganger in another alternate. So they're all doing it, but they were basically looking for technology. And other ones, they'd go to like, the Nazis won the war in this one. How? Oh, they've got this thing here. We don't have this. Let's bring this back. But
yeah,
because everyone was like, of course, everyone closer to the center of the band, so to speak, was almost identical. It was the as you got further out that the decisions really varied and had a bigger butterfly effect on history. So what would happen is that since you were identical to multiples of your counterparts, there was always this concern that what if two of you picked the same point on the band to return to? Because you couldn't quite get exactly where you left from. You might come up with everything's identical except, somebody has blue eyes. And they're like, well, you pick one and everyone else will pick one. That's different.
It's kind of similar to one of the better Star Trek Voyager episodes where a guy is trying to restore time after erasing like an enemy species from history, and constantly he's trying to regain his life with his wife, but never, of all the things that get restored, never get his own homeworld gets restored.
Yeah, it's fun to play with those kind of concepts. So in your situation here, do you have is there an enemy, a distinct enemy, or are there just different threats?
Well, like I said, it's really written as a high concept universe, so I'm more into exploring ideas. I don't really create bad guys. I create enemies with particular ambitions, and really, I'm trying to figure out what happens if those ambitions clash. So every villain that we've created for the series so far really has very powerful motivations. That, a matter of fact, overlap sometimes with that of the association. So association has a love-hate relationship with a lot of organizations, but like, we don't like the way how you do this, but in this situation we really need your help. So that type of deal. So it's really all this time. It's really a very realist perspective of give and take, and also trying to find the line. What I find most interesting is like trying to find the line where the association says, "Okay, we do not allow this." And one of those is a short story called P25, which I wrote shortly before I started on Bound for the Styx, and it's basically a medicine that is a vaccine for cancer. And I already had Hades like in global line, so it was okay. Well, they found this plant on Hades, and with those plants they can make this vaccine for cancer, which is a good thing. He wouldn't want a vaccine for cancer, right? But then the association says, yeah, but that means you're gonna bring in invasive species, and we cannot allow that. And we do not trust you to contain these plants properly. So, no, if you try this, we will fucking destroy you. And no, we do not care if you're an international organization that's protected by every major power in the world. So, and in this case, you could argue, well, the association is the bad guy for not allowing this vaccine. Now, of course, the story ends that someone else does it anyway, and these plants break loose.
Of course.
Yeah.
Just like they said they would.
Yes, exactly. So, well, in this case, it's also kind of the association's fault, not directly, but anyway. But I was like trying to look for something that, well, when Igraine went there, something that, kind of like forced her to, kind of glued her to arcology. And then I discovered something very horrible with very horrible implications that, due to the events that happened in Bound for in the first book, Wrench in the Machine, that the effects of Traveler's Decay, one of the side effects is that the victims or patients, the afflicted, however you want to call them, starts secreting a gray, powderish material that they simply call gray stuff, because you're literally falling apart into this, well, basically nothing. It's like literally nothing. However, in case of Igraine, because he was in such an advanced stage at the time, her entire body is now flooded with the stuff, and it does nothing. It's inert. However, the body is trying to get rid of it, but it doesn't really know what to do with it. So you become very cancer prone from that. And so now Igraine is forced to take P25 or, well, suffer the consequences. So she now has to return to her college on a regular basis. And like I said, she has a love-hate relationship with the city. So that's a very, well, a tragic experience. But she's a very noir character, so you have no choice but to do that.
I love
yeah,
these gray kind of conflicts too, because you in the world of comics, there's the bad guy and the good guy, and they're very easy to distinguish from each other. But if you try to write something more nuanced, nobody thinks of themselves as the villain. No one says, "The world is mine, and you shall all bow to me." Even in conflicts around the world, I'm sure Putin thinks he has a very good reason for doing what he's doing, and why is everybody opposing him?
Yeah. Well, he's very paranoid. So what we know of him. So
from what we know from the outside, but I mean, in his head, he doesn't. No one sees themselves as the villain. They all think they're doing something for the right reason. Now, they may be insane. They may just be completely wrong. But they'll wonder why am I being opposed? Is this not obvious to everybody else here that I'm trying to do something good?
Yeah, well, in case of for Igraine is that she is going to kind of start a crusade against anyone who's trying to import P25. While these people who want this anti-cancer vaccine, and she has that access, so she's very privileged in that regard. But she decides to kind of start this crusade. So I have not really found her exact motivations for that. In the next book, Bound for the Styx, it's described as is. However, I do explore like how she became that single-minded and aggressive in a way. So it's really, at one end, it's an exploration of the city of arcology, how everything works, what the mentality of the people is, who, as the title suggests, bound for the Styx. Everyone is like in this mindset because they have no more past, because it's literally gone poof. They only have this idea that, well, they're bound for the Styx. So everyone constantly talks about death all the time. Because that's the only certainty they've got. And kind of like Igraine is this, and this also plays into the Wrench in the Machine themes. You see is this element that does have a future, does have ambitions, and because she can go home and develop herself, and they're stuck in that place with no place to go. So you really get this enormous clash of mentalities that Igraine does not really handle well, because he does not understand that mentality that they've got.
With the nomenclature that you're using, you've got Hades, you've got Styx. This is happening, I'm guessing, in sort of an 1850s timeline.
This the current timeline of Bound for the Styx, I think, is 1878.
Okay,
on the top of my head.
But to have those words be there and applied to things, it kind of makes me wonder, was all this interdimensional stuff happening 2,000, 3,000 years prior? And that's why, the mythology exists for a place called Hades, a way there called the Styx. And what else might,
that's one of the mysteries. And I have not yet really figured it out yet. I'm kind of like waiting for the right inspiration to do such things. Like, people ask me, like, how do you write so much and how do you do your world building? Why does it feel so complete? And one of the reasons is that I get an idea for something and I write a story. I don't spend years on working out like arcology. I had an idea for the city for a very long time, because it's also the main the city where the main character of my show, Denker Lexicon, the presenter of the Steampunk Beginner's Guide, lives. Radio Retro Future is an actual thing in this multiverse. Okay. With an actual background. It's described in the Arcology Companion and what his function and motivations is, and what he his dealings with the association. Yeah, and then I do that all through short stories. Um, and what was the question again? I forgot my train of thought.
Well, I was just wondering if these multidimensional rifts that are happening now had happened thousands of years earlier.
Yes,
That was
yes,
the
that's
ancient Greeks
where I
too.
was going for. Yeah. So what happened in this world was that the Hades and the Styx was considered to be all mythology until in 1791. All of a sudden, Elysium appears at the sky, which is where Hades is inside of. It's a kind of like massive bell-shaped object in the wake of the moon. They don't know how it got there, who built it, or what it is. The association, and we're making a comic about this actually, where they're launching a rocket that then crashes. Because, well, it's not actually in space. It's somewhere in between places. But from that moment in time, also these rifts start becoming a real problem, start opening up everywhere. So there is probably some correlation there. And the association is still in the process of figuring out how the hell this happens and what these rifts really are and everything. Um, but yeah, they all find all these clues in ruins and stuff that there were actually civilizations already dealing with these rifts in the past, and now these rifts somehow closed, and now they're reappearing again. So there is definitely mystery there. It's also why they have the name the Association of Ishtar, because they believe they have some connection to these civilizations. Whether that turns out to be true or not, that remains to be seen. But
Will be interesting to see if any of this interdimensional rift energy causes not just sideways travel, but forward and backward, and they end up finding, or engaging with some of these prior associations.
Well, I definitely I'm looking forward to come up with a kind of like anti-association who, because the Association of Ishtar has a very strict rule that you're not going to get involved with what happens in other worlds unless they have no other choice. But yeah, I imagine there could be some form of anti-association of Ishtar that does exactly that. To kind of as a preventative measure, so they are certain that these worlds will not try anything. So,
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if Ishtar had a counterpart. I mean, we're talking about
a Ereshkigal, essentially.
Yeah,
the goddess of dreams and death. I think she was also goddess of dreams, but she was the mistress of the underworld. So there's also one of the reasons why I chose Ishtar is also because there is this tale of her entering the realm of her sister, and she has to go through all these gates. But every time she enters through one of these gates, she is made to take off something. So in the end, she enters like her sister's realm naked. Yeah, so
and with Ishtar being an avatar of Aphrodite or Venus in the Greek and Roman
precursor, yeah.
So she's a goddess of beauty and all that. You've mentioned books, you've mentioned comics. Let's see what all is going to be available on this crowdfunder, because this is a multimedia experience that you've developed here with the association.
Yes. Yeah. So we also have miniatures like these bookends that I showed here. This is a prototype. This is a birthday gift for a friend of mine. This will be the final versions. I'm talking with my developer to make maybe busts of the new miniatures as well. So we are also have one comic, but it's really me learning how to make comics. But it's a comic version of the first story I ever written for the series called S36, The Crawl Girl. This is where everything started with. It's why the associations have numbers and why they have radios and that kind of stuff, which kind of
that was a good looking little ash can comic too. We shipped that for him, folks, and it was I'll plug you right now. This was some quality merchandise that was being shipped out. The books looked great. The comics looked great. The figures were exquisite. I wish I was a figure collector and a good painter. I would have said, hey, you know what? I'm going to buy a couple of these.
Oh, you can at least get the bookends. I mean, you can use those for your collection.
Oh, and the bookends were gorgeous. I was so scared of those bookends because I'm like, oh, these are big. They're fragile. oh, this is not going to pack well. I'm scared how it's going to arrive. Everything arrived. I heard unbroken. I haven't heard anything otherwise. So
I have not heard no complaints. So
I was, that was the biggest. That was one of the biggest sighs of relief in my entire career of shipping stuff for people. Like, because this was the first time I had something that fragile and that gorgeous. I'm like,
yeah,
you know what?
Oh, I already asked the developer to make Igrange's miniature more robust, because the stuff she in this version, her stuff is a bit fragile, but her new staff should be more robust now. So
now, making the miniatures, this is obviously something that gamers are into. Do you have a game, or is this just, hey, you can bring the characters into your other games?
It's unfortunate that I cannot say too much about it, which I'm very annoyed by, because now I get that question every time. Originally, it was part of a 5-year plan, like 5 years down the road, when I've put out, like when I reached the magical number of 20 books, so to speak. Then I'm gonna really, I have enough lore and information and vision for the series to make a game. But that might have been accelerated because there is a part who has shown interest in making a role-playing game. But that's
that would be very cool.
Sorry?
That would be very cool, because it's almost a two-pronged attack. I mean, you were building up a book world to get people involved in a game, but at the same time, if there's a game world exists, then they'll start playing and say, whoa, these are based on books. Well, obviously I want to read the books about the game that I'm playing, so you can draw them in from two directions.
Well, actually, we have the so-called tabletop collection in the rewards. And because these are written as in-world documents. So this is literally what the contents of this book, of both these books, is literally something that players can find during their investigations. That was also kind of the idea behind them. If you're a Fallout player or something like that, or Atomic Heart that recently came out, you can find all these logs and files and letters and emails, and that's exactly what these files are. It's correspondence, mostly letters and stuff like that, that you can save. And we also, if you scroll down one more image, I think, you'll find we also do cosplay from time to time. This is a scene from Arcology. We did this for a video. We also have narrative videos, which I really hope to make more of in the future. So people will, and I explained this in the Kickstarter as well, that when you're supporting this Kickstarter, you're not just supporting the books, you're also supporting like all the video multimedia projects. So and that's I would love to make actual lore videos where I can use art to like explain the world in a narrative way that's also entertaining, with characters, and people really want to voice act for these videos as well with the community. So it's a whole community project I'm trying to set up. And people can submit their own stories as well as their own characters and stuff like that. So
it's when you get people involved in your world to the place where they want to dress up like people in it and act like it, you're onto something. You've struck a chord somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I've already got like some people are like, what would an associate look like? So people are looking for new, fresh ideas for steampunk and what to portray. And there's not really any series that the steampunk community has clung onto. Like, oh, this is like our big example of what a steampunk series should look like. I mean, this is not like your typical, the aesthetic of the association story is not your typical steampunk cosplay idea. When I talk with my illustrators, I say, well, I want the images to look at least 80% historical and 10% science fiction. And the exception is Arcology, because it's a mishmash of cultures and stuff like that, and with scavengers and all kinds of, there should be all kinds of references. You have no clue where they come from.
And they can't tell you because they don't speak the same language. They came from
No, indeed.
someplace
Like
else.
most of it is like sign language. Yeah, I don't put too much of a thing on it. In Bound for the Styx, it's complicated enough. But yeah, they use a lot of sign language. That's kind of like their universal language.
They would have to learn
And
something to
yeah,
communicate.
and I'm also working on this idea of kind of like a translator guild of translators who speak multiple languages and have developed this kind of like secret sign language that only they themselves can understand, which of course has its own problems. But yeah, I'm working on all that type of stuff, and we are now also working on a map of the ground level of arcology, because it's built out of 4 floors in total, because well it's a ship, and it's basically a big crater between 4 decks that's been filled up by these scavengers with random housing.
So on the tiers here, you've got you start off with this empty tier. This is basically a paper stack, so that if you want to build your own,
we've got a digital one for $1, and this is then the international shipping crate.
And you can just go to this. Just opens up the add-ons, folks. So if you're like, none of these tiers speak to me, I kind of want this, I kind of want a little of that.
And the reason why it's $10 is because they're like the part of the shipping is already included in that amount, so the shipping totals for that one are lower.
Are there pictures of what's offered down here? Yes, here they are. Here they are. This will be easier to read.
This is the full list of rewards. Yep.
So you can get the Bound for the Styx book in digital format for $12. It's an ebook. This is not a comic book, people. This is a novel.
Yeah, it's illustrated novel.
I saw the Wrench in the Machine one. It's thick. It's a book. It's
Well, the new version is a bit thinner because I changed the layout. So, but
and you've got Color the Multiverse. This is a physical coloring book, just like the last time.
We also offer digitally, by the way. But it's in between the add-ons. And then you can print them yourself. Okay.
You can print them yourself, or you can import
the art
them
on
into
that
your
is
favorite.
also beautiful, by the way. This is a limited edition version with a special cover, but it also has art related to Bound for the Styx, like this one, which is the battle with Sane, which is a Garuda robot.
Yeah, I like the fact that your coloring books were ring bound. Instead of perfect bound. I mean, look, you just flip that thing just to the page you want. There's no creasing the spine. It's just laying flat right there.
I'll probably just use the Amazon versions of this for the new one. I might sell like these ones in the Netherlands because they're a bitch to ship and and relatively expensive to print. So
J.R. Exner in the chat, is this Kickstarter Indigo? This is Kickstarter. This is funded in 8 hours. This is a project they love. The Kickstarter link is right below the video. So, be sure to, check that out and head over there. We're looking at it right now. Let's see here. Bound for the Styx. This is the basic book, the basic paperback edition, $25. And then the miniatures for Wrench in the Machine. You still have, the Associate and Associate 212, and also the Call Girl S36. Those were, your basic D&D size.
They're
miniatures.
basic D&D Warhammer scale.
They were beautiful. Bound for the Styx Plus is going to get you the paperback as well as the
Arcology Companion.
The Arcology Companion there
one.
that you
So you also get the stories that inspired the books, including like the White Airship, which explains how the people are brought to arcology and what that entails in the Styx, which explains the idea of the river and the cultists. The background of the founder, which is Denkard Lexicon. And what else do we have here? The Hands of the Merchandise, which is the Veil Generators. That's the lamp that Igraine is holding over here. Those have a very special function.
Okay.
So
the story so far, Tier, that's going to get you all the ebooks. It's going to get you the Wrench in the Machine, Bound for the Styx, and the Arcology Companion. This is all the ebooks. You're also going to get 321's notebook and the this is all digital, right? This is going to you have a digital version.
This is the digital version. Yeah, we also have the physical version as well. Yeah. And it turned
And that
out to
will
be
be the,
pretty more popular than I anticipated. So,
oh yeah, well, you're building something here that people are starting to notice. So get prepared. It's going to start ramping up. It's
yeah, let's hope so. Let's hope so. Let's see if we got some new donors during the stream. That would be very nice, because we're already approaching our second stretch goal at the moment. The first one is we've got new bookends, which I can. Is this the one? Yeah, this is the new bookend with the wonderful cityscape by Johan Alexander. And you can see the tower, the Radio Retro Future Tower, and then you can see like all the cultural references in the various buildings, including Dutch buildings. I love that one. And the cover by Valentine Art, a bit more expressionistic, a bit more noir. So, yeah. And Edwin the Doll was there as well, who was going to get her own book. And I'm really looking forward to finishing that, because that's nearly done. So.
Now, you have an audiobook collection here for both Wrench in the Machine and Bound for the Styx. That is something I have not seen on a lot of campaigns.
Yeah, the Wrench in the Machine, I'm still working on that, but it should be done within within the time limit. The Bound for the Styx audiobook is already completed.
Yeah.
And already available as well. I managed to find a way to get it published on various audiobook stores.
Yeah, and JR, these are completed things. This is obviously the 3D
They're
prints
done.
are completed.
They're
The
done.
book
Yeah.
done.
We're still working on illustrations for Bound for the Styx. The story itself is done. Proofreaders are now finishing up, getting the last spelling errors out, and the illustrations are still being produced. But we're good on schedule.
And if you get the Bound for the Styx collection, you'll get all the books in paperback, as well as the two 35mm figures of Igraine and I don't know this person.
Nier.
Nier.
Nier. She's a new character. She's one of the people she befriends in arcology, and she becomes kind of like her sister figure in the series. So we see the design is done. I just haven't had it printed yet.
All right. And then if you want the Wrench in the Machine collection, which went prior to this, you'll get the that book. You'll get 321's notebook and the 235mm collection figures that went with that one, the Associate and the Call Girl. So you got 4 figures so far printed in 2 campaigns.
Yeah, not including the bookends. Yeah.
Yeah, the book.
They already got requests for other miniatures, but they're expensive to produce. So
and you're doing the bookends again this time.
We've got the bookends are on offer. Yes, they are included in the full collection, and so Matlad actually got it. But yeah, it's also a beautiful deal. I have to say.
Yeah, and that's we talked about the tabletop collection. The bookends right here. This is these are resin.
These are discounted.
Yeah, and do you have one handy there, just to show it off, just to see how people?
Yeah, so these are the prototypes. I still need to paint the final product. But yeah, they both look like this. So
now when they arrive at your homes, folks, they'll be gray. They'll be solid gray.
Depending on the resin type used. But yeah, I mean, even if you just spray them black, and if you can know the basics of dry brushing, you already have like some amazing stuff. Indeed, they're not provided painted.
You go to your local gaming shop and you say, "Who's painting stuff? Take my thing and paint it."
No.
Let a pro do it.
Oh, I'm sure you'll get some painting enthusiasts just paint it for you. Quite frankly, I mean, they're beautiful.
Yeah, so they were.
I never painted at this scale, but I mean, I have not painted for a very long time when I did this, and
that looks beautiful. I'd have been.
I'm really proud. I'm really proud of it. Yeah.
I'd been perfectly happy with it if it had come out of the box looking just like that. It's just gorgeous. You can be drawn as a scav, one of the scavengers in there, if you want to get your likeness in the book. And that character will also get its own backstory eventually, depending on the design, of course. But so it's not just a sketch. You're getting.
No, it's not just a sketch. I mean, I'll do whatever I want with them. Don't get me wrong, but. We have an example down below of one of our top tier patrons, and and then I already have like this entire concept for him in my head on what he's gonna do and what he represents and what his character is gonna be like. I have not come across the term. Yeah, that's a description of the Wrench in the Machine, the first book.
Yeah, and it inspired the term Love Holmesian. I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah. I never heard the term before until somebody used it in the reviews. Yeah,
it says so much. Now who are the Coffin Girls?
Yeah, so when let's see, I think I dropped my comic, but yeah, my editor, because the first comic it's really short. I think it's 6 pages. What is a general introduction to who the Association of Ishtar is, and I needed some filler, and I was already experimenting with basically a kind of penal legion that is kind of used as cannon fodder to engage like alien hordes that come through the rifts. So whenever there is like a massive infestation, they're the first ones to be sent in to see, what's going to happen if we send humans close to this thing. Many of them are just the men are basically guys with bomb collars on their necks. Send in to fight these things hand to hand, so to speak. But the Coffin Girls control these massive robots. That's also included in the coloring book. This is actually done by one of the original BattleTech artists, Eldon Calger. I did not know he was one of the actual BattleTech artists, but this is what he created. The design is by me. And I basically asked him, can you draw me a robot? Can you draw this for me? And it's actually based on it's actually based on an actual robot that exists right now, a racing frame, which are actual things. And the idea is that the Coffin Girls, because because the female prisoners have to be segregated from the male prisoners in the prison colonies, they are like taught to control these robots as experiments, and that gave them the nickname the Coffin Girls or the Casket Girls, which is an actual historical reference to prostitutes who were sent to the French colonies to service the prison population. Of course, this went entirely wrong, but
we have a similar situation here in the States, where they're called hookers. And it was because the prostitutes were brought in during the Civil War to service General Hooker's men. And
that's where the term comes from.
So that's where that's a little bit of wordplay there. This is I've been scrolling through the campaign here, getting showing the patches, of course. These were very nice patches too, folks.
Yeah, and we also offer work by other authors, which Sean Marsh, Little Wage and Watchtower, multi-award-winning kids book in the steampunk genre. So go check that out if you have kids. The Demons book, which is kind of Wiccan punk, she calls it.
Interesting.
It's just $3. So they're really cheap add-ons.
So there's a lot of stuff in here, guys. You want to take your time and go through it all, see all the stretch goals. I'm going to scroll up to the very, very top and see. This is, of course, Kickstarter. I don't remember what the number was when we started Bonsart.
We're still at the same amount, unfortunately.
Still the same amount. Okay, well then I have done nothing for you, and I apologize for. But people will. Maybe it's a weekend here. People will catch us on the replay, and we're gonna hashtag this with the steampunk and multiversal and all the keywords that will attract all the right fans.
And project we love as well.
Absolutely.
We earned the hashtag project we love. Yeah.
So, how big is this world that you're building here? I mean, do you see an end in sight, or is this like, you know what? I'm going to be 92 years old. We'll be putting out, the 115th volume.
Well, I also include guest posts in the series during the campaign. I post also just for $1, you get all kinds of extra content like short stories and guest interviews and stuff like that. So it's not just my stuff. You also get to see stuff by musicians and other artists and anyone who wants to, promote my work, promote their work during the campaign. And yeah, Sean Marsh tells his vision for the series. He's been like I said, he's a multi-award winning writer at this point. Has his own role-playing company that he's now developing. And yeah, he's been a fan from the very get-go. And like he said, anything you can add anything to the Association of Ishtar. Igraine herself was a happy accident. I did not intend to make her a protagonist, not in the Range of the Machine, or originally for Bound for the Styx. Because the way I write, like I said, I do not spend much time on world design, as I call it. Most people call it world building. I call it world design. World building is for me when you actually write the story and describe the world and describe how characters interact with that world.
It builds organically that way.
Organically, indeed. And Igraine is a perfect example of that, because originally I wrote her as a critique on Clark Tech, which is the phrase that is often used. Oh, if sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic,
yes.
Oh, you might as well just make everything magic. It doesn't matter. And that's not what that's supposed to mean, but that's, the low brain take that some people take to this subject. So the idea of Igraine's homeworld is that it is a world where people believe their technology is magical. So they don't have a word for technology. It's all arcane and stuff like that. Internet cables are called ley lines, stuff like that. So that's why when you look at her first drawing, she looks like a kind of like a magical girl, like a little Art Deco witch. Okay. And she comes to this world of the Association of Ishtar, and then she learns there from, oh wait, this isn't magical. You don't have to use like kind of like obscure symbolism to make a circuit or anything like that. So that's the problem, because of course the association wants to send her back. Like, yeah, we can't keep her here; she'll die. So, but yeah, the wizards, of course, and of course they're called wizards. They don't want her back because she has seen the other world, and that maybe the magic isn't real. So they've got that dilemma, and Igraine has to stay. That's why she's in exile, and that is also why she's such a resentful human being. But as I wrote the story, and I was working on the concept and trying to imagine, okay, what would this situation be like for her? And as I wrote her and her conflict, the conflict of being in exile became more interesting than the actual concept. So I'm still very proud of that story. But it was very obvious when I worked on it. There was far more to be explored there than just, the idea of a girl who thinks that her technology is magic.
You had character growth, which is something that you don't get a lot of these days in books. So
yeah,
that's the advantage you got here. Everything's ground floor building up. You know what it is, but you don't know what it's going to become. You as the creator. Yeah. And we get to watch it all grow with you. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, definitely when you read the short stories, you definitely see like how certain, recurring elements originally, like I wrote them as SCP files. But then as I wrote more and more of the stories, it became more natural for me to kind of like write them as letters, and all the files being attachment to those letters instead. So it's instead of a full file with all the nitty gritty details, you instead get like a collection of letters. Like, well, this is the letter, this is the dilemma, and these are like the elements that explain all the various facets that are relevant to the story, to the main dilemma that they're currently dealing with. And yeah, I'm probably gonna have to revisit like Igraine's file at some point and make it longer and go into deeper and like what is the main conflict that the association has with her now. because, well, not only is he an outsider, he's also the kind of character that's just a liability overall. That's why so few associates want to work with her, because, you know, she's kind of like what we would call loose cannon. And I definitely want to develop her into kind of like a Shadow-esque figure who, you know, starts making bad guys work for her, because he's sick of, like, you know, I constantly have to choose between two evils. So, okay, I'll defeat one evil, I'll make the other one my bitch. That's kind of like where I think I'm going with her.
I like it. I like it. Captain Finity, welcome to the show there. Appreciate you popping in and commenting in the chat. It brings us to the top of the hour, and Bonsart, this has been, as always, a fascinating delve into this world that you're building here. It's I definitely, it looks like a lot of fun. Something that you could really immerse yourself in if you're a reader, if you're a gamer, if you're a comics fan. It's going to be all there. You got to read.
We're working on comics. It's just, you know, on the half of it is done, half of the illustrations. It's going to be kind of a prologue to the story that led to the association taking to the stars and discovering Elysium. So yeah, the prologue, we've got the storyboard for that done. Johan, my main artist, is currently working on the first pages. Now he's working on illustrations for Bound for the Styx, but after that he'll continue with that. And I don't know when the next Kickstarter is going to be, but it's probably going to be the comic and the new anthologies that will be about Coven Girls, Igraine and our doll Enwyn, which has come to life, which I'm really looking forward to. And the last one will be the Knights of Avalon, which are basically a bunch of nutcases in power armor in the steampunk world who want to fight dragons, essentially. So,
all right. Well, Bonsart, thank you for bringing the Association of Ishtar to the channel again today. Folks, again, the Bound for the Styx campaign is on Kickstarter. It's right below the video. If you're watching this on replay, click that link, head over there, check it out. Look at all the items. If a tier doesn't speak to you specifically, remember, you can always get that tier where you can just say, give me the shopping bag, go add in whatever you want from the add-on page. Build your own that way. Everybody in the chat, thank you so much for being here this afternoon. We appreciate it. We don't have a show without you being here watching it, so we're glad that you're here. And as always, while you're here, we just hope you had a blast. Good afternoon.